All right, it's 7:30. We'll get started. I'll give everyone another 30 seconds or so to jump on. I appreciate everyone joining me tonight. We'll get started. My name is Dan Rothert, top student athlete recruiting. Um, I'm based in Dubuque, and this is a webinar to help Iowa high school soccer players learn about the college recruiting process and what it takes, and the myths and the mistakes and some of the trends, and then what you can be doing to help your cause and put yourself in the right position in regards to that. So I'm going to share my screen as we get going. It is being recorded because a few people asked, but definitely want to make sure we get the right people connected with this stuff that need it, need the help, because it's not easy out there. So again, my contact information is here if you're interested in contacting me further about the process or what you need to be doing, or just for me to evaluate you and your recruiting. I can certainly do that. My email, my phone number, the website, feel free to reach out. This is a webinar format. I should tell you that. So what I mean by that is I can't hear you. You're muted on this. I don't. If you want to ask a question, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A at the bottom. I'll try to get to questions at the end and go through those so we can get everybody going with the same information and the right questions and answer those questions as we go. So I live in Dubuque. I was a coach at Loras College for 22 years, had a lot of success, won a lot of championships, conference championships, competed deep in the NCAA tournament runs, um, and also was associate athletic director for 5 years, where I oversaw recruiting for the entire athletic department. So I have a good handle on recruiting. I've been doing this for about 4 years. I started top student athlete recruiting a little over 4 years ago. I've helped hundreds of soccer players, mostly from Iowa and then some from the surrounding states over the last 4 years, get connected with colleges and coaching staffs based on needs and priorities. All right. And what I mean by that is everybody has their priorities, what they're looking for in a college, the right fit for them, obviously athletically, like how do they fit into a program in a school, and a coaching style and all those things. Are they good enough, or are the right fit in terms of what their coach looks for? And then academics, do they have the right major? Do they have the right GPA? Um, and then you start talking about other things like, is it the right fit financially? Right? Is it the right fit socially? Is it the right location? All those things come into play. And so I've been able to do that for the last 4 years. I absolutely love it because I love to see kids get connected to the right fit opportunities where they can have some success, have a great college experience, and leave saying that was the best 4 years of my life and I got a great education out of it. So we're going to start. I'll just jump right into it. We're going to talk about scholarships. Soccer scholarships are usually partial. A full ride is very rare, and if it is a full ride, it's um, you know often a combination of athletics and academic money, and I'm going to explain that momentarily. But you should not be saying I need an athletic scholarship. Rather, you should be saying, you're trying to find the best value in college because there's schools out there that won't name it athletic money, or they might give you a lot of academic money, um, and maybe they don't give you as much athletic scholarship money. We'll talk about that. And then soccer scholarship money is harder to come by. Not every school gives a great amount. It's not football and basketball. I'll talk about that momentarily as well. And then grades are super important. Um, because soccer scholarships usually partial, grades are, you can get more money because you have good grades. Most colleges give a merit award for kids with good grades, and the better your grades, the more merit money you can get. Well, you can maybe add that to athletic money at a lot of schools, so you can have a combination of things. So let me explain. Let's just start with men's soccer. Let's first off, let's talk about how many schools are playing. There's 204 men's Division I schools, 199 Division II, 404 Division three. So that's the biggest division by almost double. NAIA has about 200 schools. There's 200 some JUCO schools, junior college schools, and then there's some Christian schools and some other schools out there. All in all, there's about 1,400 schools playing men's college soccer. On the scholarship side of the table, a Division One can give up to 9.9. Now, I say the word "give up to" because they don't have to give the full 9.9 scholarships. They don't have to allot their program those. A lot of it's based on how many scholarships they're giving in other sports. Maybe they have a huge football team. They give the max in football, and so soccer gets 5 or 6 scholarships to divide amongst the whole team. If they gave 9.9, they call that fully funded. So just think about this. Average roster size is somewhere between 26 and 30 on the men's Division One. If there's 30 people on a team and you divide, 9.9 scholarships into 30, it's about a third scholarship per player. But that's not how it works, right? So they give some players more, they give some players less based on ability level, based on, the need and based on how many scholarships there are. But if it was a fully funded school and gave 9.9 scholarships, 10 scholarships per se, they might give, if they gave one full ride to one player, now they have 8.9 for the other 29 players. And the coach has to divvy that up. Division two has 9 scholarships max, so it's very similar. Division three doesn't have any athletic scholarships, but they can give sometimes a little bit better on the merit money for grades and leadership and other things on their campus. So I've seen kids that have gotten better deals at Division three schools than Division one schools. It does happen. NAIA, they can give up to 12 scholarships, but a lot of their scholarshiping is a little bit different, and it depends on how an average amount of money a coach needs to have each player paying. So if they have one player on their program, paying 0, then they have to have another player paying a lot of money to average it out, depending on the program. So they might sometimes have larger rosters and things like that. We'll talk more about roster sizes in a little bit. Junior colleges sometimes can give up to 18 at the Division One JUCO level. There are Division One, 2, and 3 junior colleges. So there's opportunities there as well. On the women's side, it's a little bit more scholarships. This is because of Title IX and having equal opportunities for women, and a lot of it's because of football, and football has so many scholarships. Let me explain. Football and basketball and women's volleyball, those are sports where they can give full ride scholarships for the basically the whole team. Football gives 85 men. If you're a Division One football team, you give 85 full ride scholarships, and then the rest of the team, if there's 20 walk-ons, right? There's still recruited players. There's no such thing as a Rudy anymore. Walk-ons in any sport are still recruited. They're just non-scholarship players. Division two women 9.9, so a little bit more than men. And then NAIA and junior college are the same as the men. So just kind of give you a little understanding of that stuff. I'm an Iowa guy. I coach Iowa high school soccer these days. I coach an Iowa ODP. I coach a Dubuque senior, if you're wondering, for the boys. But I think this about Iowa soccer. We're a bit underrated. People don't know how good the soccer in the state is. It's under recruited. We don't have MLS Next teams or ECNL teams. There's players here who could play at the highest levels because we're often an afterthought for college coaches, and there's not as much population. A coach could spend their money and fly to Chicago and see a lot more players in a shorter amount of time than they could in Iowa, or a lot more spread out and those types of things. We're against the curve. We have, on the boys' side, we have spring high school soccer. That's different than almost every state out there, right? So we have a different playing schedule. One group's playing club while we're playing, or other states are playing club while we're playing high school, and vice versa. It hurts us a bit. And then we only have one Division One men's soccer program in the state. So on the men's side, we're a little bit disadvantaged there. So that's a couple things. Just to give you, this is last year's numbers. I don't have this year's numbers yet, but 2023 rosters, right? Let's look at those. Um, Division One and Division Two. Drake is the only men's soccer team in Iowa. If you look at their roster, they have 4 Iowans out of 30 players on the roster, all ages. So that's about one player per recruiting class. I think the last 2 years they've had 2 Iowans each. I know in 2024 they have 2 Iowans coming in. All right, but just two, right? Not very many. Um, Upper Iowa is Division Two, the only Division Two in the state. They have 8 Iowans out of 43 players on their roster, a little bit bigger roster. Um, but they have 8 total Iowans. Let's go for women. Drake women, 9 Iowans out of 30, probably the most, right? That's okay. That's decent. Iowa women, 5 Iowans, not very many. I know they signed 2 for 2025, 2 girls I work with, but um, Iowa State women, 3 Iowans. Upper Iowa, Division Two, 3 Iowans. So thinking about, those things, let's look at last 2 years, I guess. Class of 2022, less than 10 Iowa girls went to NCAA Division One schools, and only 3 Iowa players. They were all my clients, right? And then last year, 2023, 4 Iowa boys landed in Division One, 3 of them directly from me. And this year, I think there's at least 6. I know of 6 players, several that I worked with who are going to Division One in the class of 2024. But are you in the top 5 to 10 players in the state in your class? I think about it this way: if you want to go Division One, use Drake or UNI as a barometer, right? They're mid-major Division Ones. They're not Power Five like Iowa and Iowa State. If you're not getting interest from those schools, I think it's a lot harder to get interest from, say, um, out of state schools, right? The in-state schools are going to do their best to know about the in-state players. They want those players. They can actually get them for cheaper, right? So think about this: it's in-state tuition. For you, if you go to UNI and you're from Iowa, and then you add some scholarship money on it. If they're bringing an out-of-state player, they may have to pay some out-of-state tuition, and then the scholarship doesn't go as far. So there's some challenges there. So I just want to give you, not trying to scare you, not trying to put you in a spot that, makes you, uh, contemplate whether you're going to do this or not. But it is hard, right? And I think that's where having an advocate like myself can help out. The other thing too is most players underestimate the levels of play. I don't put NAIA on here in junior college because I could, because there's a lot of overlap. But most people think Division One's the best, then Division Two, then Division Three. Now, Division One, certainly those are probably the best teams on average over time, right? But there's a lot of overlap. There's Division Two teams that can beat Division One teams. There's Division Three teams that can beat Division Two and Division One teams. Every year my teams when I was coaching, we would go play some lower to mid-major Division One schools and do really well, uh, and win games, tie games, give them a great game. Last year the top-rated Division Two team on the men's side played the top-rated Division One team and won. The number one team in the country in Division Two, beating the number one team in Division One. So there's a ton of overlap. I think the level of play in college is really good. Yeah, there's good Division Ones and there's bad Division Ones, right? And there's really good Division Threes and there's bad Division Threes. And is it just going to a place to say you're playing on a Division One Ross team or not? So I talk about the trends in men's soccer first. We'll do men's, then we'll do women's. All right. First is the transfer portal. All right. You've heard about it in basketball and football. It's the same thing in soccer. College coaches are looking for, uh, first off, college coaches get paid to win. All right. And sometimes their jobs are on the line. A lot of times their jobs are on the line if they don't win. And so they're looking for players who can make, immediate difference. They don't have time to develop players anymore. And so they are going straight to the transfer portal and looking for players from smaller schools, right, to come in who can maybe make a difference. Maybe they're recruiting players from, high level Division One, might be recruiting from, mid level to lower level Division One and picking up players from there that are already seasoned, that ready to play at the college, at that level, it can make an immediate difference. All right, we saw it, the other night. I was watching NCAA basketball, and the kid from Oakland scored 30 points and they beat Kentucky. And there's a big talk about that. That Oakland was full of transfers and older players, and their average age was about 23. Kentucky was full of freshmen, and their average age was like 19 and a half. That's a big difference, 4 years. And so coaches are looking there. And so I'd say about a quarter of, you know, scholarships or roster spots that used to go to incoming freshmen are now going to transfers. And so it's harder to find spots. And that's just the nature of it. It stinks. It's different than it was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years ago. Transfers are here to stay, and coaches want to win with older players, and they know they can win with older players. There's a trend to go to gap year programs. There's a lot of players because of the transfer portal and the challenge of finding those roster opportunities, maybe at the higher levels right away as freshmen. A lot of players don't want to give up a year of eligibility, and so they go to a gap year program. Whether here it's domestically here in the U.S. or sometimes abroad in Spain or Argentina or England. I work with some of those programs. I have some players that go in gap year programs where they can go live, immerse themselves in soccer for a year, get bigger, faster, stronger, and come back more ready to play, and they didn't lose any eligibility. There's some later recruiting going on. I have a lot of seniors still out there, still getting recruited, still trying to figure this thing out. I had a lot of seniors maybe back in February, late January, who committed to programs, boys and girls, but we'll talk about boys right now. Um, because what happens now is, coaches aren't ready to give a freshman a roster spot in the fall of their senior year, right? They're waiting to see what happens with the transfer portal, which opens up in November and December. And then after the transfer portal closes, then after the musical chairs happens and people jump and leave all these different programs and land at new ones, then there's openings um, and they fill their roster then. So I had several men's players land at Division I schools and even Division II and Division III late in the game because of the musical chairs that's happening in the transfer portal. College coaches had to re-recruit their own roster every year because they were afraid they're going to lose players to transferring. Scholarship money. A lot of these transfers and international players that maybe can make a bigger difference right away are getting the scholarship money. So even sometimes when they land a freshman recruit, a lot of times they're gonna, maybe be no scholarship. Maybe you're all, you can be on the team, you can have a roster spot. You're a kid that maybe can develop into something for us, but as a freshman, we're not going to give you money. We might give you money if you prove your worth your freshman year, but maybe not there. And internationals, I didn't put that on here, but international recruiting um, is pretty high. It's well into about 30% of rosters are internationals. So it's challenging. MLS Next and ECNL is where a lot of recruiting happens. Coaches have budgets and they have to spend their budgets wisely. They don't have huge unlimited recruiting budgets like football and basketball might do. And so to get the most bang for their buck, when they go to a recruiting showcase, they seem to be picking these events. And so, those schools or those programs, MLS Next and ECNL leagues, just have a lot of players in them. And there's going to be quality across the board for the most part. But there's players that don't play MLS Next and ECNL that have a lot of success. I work with a lot of players. One of the advantages for people that work with me is if you're not in those leagues, and even if you are in those leagues, it's still hard. Don't get me wrong, but I can open doors by telling college coaches about players and personally and why they might be a good fit, and that's where the difference comes in. And then there's just ID camp upon ID camp upon ID camp. There's a ton of ID camp confusion. Do I need to go to these camps? Is that going to help my cause in recruiting, or I have to go to these? I think ID camps are a bit overrated, in my opinion. We're going to talk about those at the end. The women's trends are a little bit different. Sorry, my Mouse is a little off. Early recruiting still happens. We see a lot of players still, June 15th after their junior year, getting calls from coaches, or after their sophomore year. So June 15th going into their junior year, they're starting to get calls. The top level players, and we're starting to see, we still see Division One, Two, and Three signing players in junior year. But we're also seeing some late recruiting here now too because of this musical chairs. I had, you know, two girls go Division One and are seniors this year. Two girls signed Division One in February, and another one signed Division Two in February. Because all of a sudden there's roster spots at their schools because of the transfer portal. The transfer portal still is a thing. It still eliminates, makes it harder because there's less roster spots. But women's soccer tends to have a little bit bigger, larger rosters because they can allow so because of Title IX, right? If a school has football and has 100 players out for football, they have to have a lot of opportunities on the women's side to balance it out. And it's not a bad thing, but I've seen women's rosters even at Division One have 40 players on it. Well, 45 players. It's going to be a lot harder to get on the field. Or maybe they're just filling roster spots with players they know that it maybe might have a chance later down the line. But there's larger rosters at some of these places. ECNL and Girls Academy, those two leagues are kind of the big leagues that get the most focus in recruiting. There's NIL, both the men's and women's side. They can get paid to play college anymore, so maybe players stay in school longer because they can make a little money on top of getting scholarships and things like that. It's not that common in soccer to have NIL money. It's not like Caitlin Clark types money in women's and men's soccer, but it still could exist. I know like Clemson players all get something like 30,000 a year or something crazy like that, right? And then there's ID camp confusion on the women's side as well. There's a little video my buddy and I made. It's a little bit old, but it gets to the point. So I'm gonna share it. Stop talking for a minute.
Are you going to play in college?
Yeah, probably D1.
That's cool for who?
Either North Carolina or Duke. Maybe Wake Forest or State if I have to. I'm not sure yet.
Are those coaches at the game today?
I don't know. I haven't talked to them yet. I'm only a junior.
So how do you know you can play for them?
They all sent me letters asking me to come to their camp so they could get a better look at me. So they definitely want me.
That sounds stupid. They probably just want you to come to their camp.
Plus my coach said it's an NCAA dead period and they can't recruit me until after July 1st prior to my senior year.
That's stupid too. Of course they could recruit you. I have friends who are sophomores and are committed to schools already.
I'm not worried about it. My dad's buddy said I can play D1 for sure.
You are a tool. Did you even send them video?
No, I don't have any. I think my coach was going to get some and sent to some schools randomly.
That's a pretty stupid idea. I heard they get a lot of tapes sent to them.
I'm not worried. I was all conference.
You are a tool. Don't you think most kids who want to play in college were all conference in high school? Do you have good grades?
I have a 2.5, and that's all I need to be eligible.
You are getting dumber the more I talk to you. What if you can't get into a school with that? Or what if the coach prefers athletes with better grades?
But I'm really good. My mom says so.
Your mom is stupid too. Don't you even want to look at D2 and D3 schools?
I heard they suck. I'm pretty sure I could play at any D2 school that I wanted to.
You suck. You know there are like 15,000 high schools and 1,000 colleges, so only the best players in the country can play D1. Have you ever been to a D2 or D3 game?
No, they suck.
You suck.
I've seen it hundreds of times, right? And I still crack up. I think it's awesome.
Are you going?
It hits it right on the head. I mean, there's a lot of he makes every mistake in the book, right? But at the same time, there's some things you can do about that to make things better. And target the right fit and have an open mind. That's one of the mistakes, and he's making. He's not doing that. You need to be honest with yourselves and don't target schools that aren't good fits. Athletically, everybody wants to play D1, and most players I work with are the best players in their area. That doesn't mean you're a Division 1 player. Maybe it does. Everybody's a little bit different. Many prospects, though, overshoot in this process. They, they're convinced they're going to play Division 1. They only reach out to Division 1 schools, and maybe there's no room in the end. It's harder and harder. Go see games. I think people are surprised how good the level is at some, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA, junior college programs. That's certainly the case. So ask somebody, don't ask your coach. It's hard for your coaches to tell you because they have you know, nobody wants to tell a player if they're not good enough, that type of thing. It's one of the things I do is evaluate, tell people straight away what their, target range is and things like that. But we'll talk about casting a wide net in a second, but that's important too. Academically, schools that are above your academic rigor. All right, you might not be accepted. Even if you are, you may not get the right merit money and extra scholarship money for your grades to make that school affordable. So I've seen kids reach out to programs, and yeah, if you're not gonna get into Harvard, let's not waste our time reaching out to Harvard and getting them thinking you're interested, and you go down the wrong path, and then at the last end all be all, you don't get in, right? Financially, target schools that are going to be in your price range. Don't reach out to schools out of your price range. Um, some of these small private elite academic schools cost 80,000 a year these days, right? And they don't give merit money and they don't give athletic scholarship and those types of things. And then in the experience, what's the overall experience? Is it a winning team? Where's it located? What's the culture? In my personal opinion, you get out of college what you put into it. You can make the right fit almost anywhere. Um, don't contact too few schools, like I mentioned. You right, apply to your. You used to be able to apply to your 3 schools: your dream school, your backup school, your safety school. But that's for non-athletes, right? If you want to play in college, you need to go where you're recruited to. That's super important. You're not going to just force your way on a roster anywhere. It's important to cast a wide net and diversify your options, different divisions, academic rigors. What I mean by that, if you reach out to a lot of schools, reach out to, if you think you're Division 1, reach out to some Division 1s, but reach out to some Division 2s and Division 3s and see where your interest lies, right? And it seems to happen later. Division 3s, NAIAs seem to be the first ones to recruit you. They'll reach out early. They can. They can reach out before, June 15th of your senior year, but they'll reach out. They'll be the first ones to talk to you for some people. And then maybe later on, Division 1s come in after the transfer portal thing plays out. For the top level players, yes, June 15th might happen, and there might be some targets for both men and women. If you're a top 1%er, but for most people, cast a wide net. Division 3 will be first, and if Division 1 or Division 2 might happen, it could happen later down the line after the transfer portal plays out. But you want options. People that work with me, my whole goal is to help people have options. So in the end, they can decide based on athletic, social, financial, academic, all those priorities, right? And so get some people who want you and then keep adding to it as time moves on. Prospects that contact coaches from a wide variety of levels have much better results in the end. And they often find that their dream school is a place they never heard of. That's the truth, right? I got players landing at schools that they didn't even know about and turn out to be awesome fits. And they didn't even know about them at the start of the process. And then you got to go where you're wanted. You make your best fit, but if you go where you're wanted and loved, you're going to have a better experience. If you're just trying to force your way on a roster and you get on a roster, but the coach doesn't really want you, it's going to be a hard road. Don't have a false sense of security. What I mean by that, college coaches decide if you're recruitable, no one else. All right. I hear it all the time. Like the kid's mom, my mom says I'm the best, right? Or my friend's dad says I'm the best, or or your coach thinks you're Division One, or people tell you you're Division One. Nobody's opinion matters except the college coach. Um, you know, a lot of awards and accolades does not mean you will get recruited. I mean, Division One or all conference one place doesn't mean you're all conference somewhere else. The college coaches don't care if you are all conference or all state or whatever. That doesn't matter to them. Can you play? All right. Are you good enough to play for us? And it's like I said, it's harder and harder, especially on the boys' side, all right, because of the transfer portal. Now you're competing against, you might be an all-state player. I just talked to a college coach, two-time state player of the year in his state, and this is Division One. Two state championships, high school, and then plays on the best club. He said he's not ready yet. He's got to take a gap year because he needs guys that can come in and make a difference next year. And as an 18-year-old, it's not going to happen for him. He needs a 24-year-old German. That's what he's going to go with. So, again, not trying to scare you, but awards and accolades don't really matter. Camp invites, emails, admissions, emails and meetings don't really mean anything unless they're personal. And if they're not personal, you get an email invite from a coach. It looks like a mass email. Ask the coach, hey, coach, I'm interested in your camp, but it's a lot for me to make it there, both financially and time wise. Just want to make sure I'm someone you're serious about. Can we jump on a call before I sign up? If you get a call and you can set up a 15 to 30-minute meeting with a coach, by all means, maybe sign up for that camp because they're interested. If they don't get back to you, then I wouldn't go. You can waste a lot of money on chasing camps, and we'll talk about that momentarily. And then coaches go to showcases, tournaments, and combines with a plan. You need to be on their plan. You need to be out in front of any events you're playing in, letting coaches know your schedule, whether it's showcases, tournaments, or even high school games. Hey, coach, hope you can come see me play. Here's my schedule, and you give them that information, and maybe they can come out and watch you play. And then don't wait until it's too late, right? Recruiting, as I say, recruiting doesn't happen your senior year. You get on radars early. Most people are getting on radars. For girls, maybe it's sophomore, summer freshman year. For boys, it can be sophomore and junior year. But you may not hear anything for a long time. It might just be watching. A lot of times they're just watching, waiting, thinking, hey, if things work out, this kid could be the player for us. But we need to see what happens down the road with our roster, with transfer portal things and all that type of stuff. But you get on it early enough that it's not a problem, but you don't need to be on it, in seventh grade either. So that's important. ID camps and showcases, are they worth it? You can chase these forever. I think some camps are better than others. I think the college camps at the actual school, tend to be better opportunities than maybe some of these large, really really large camps like Exact and some of these other things. I'm not a big fan of those. But what is the return on investment? Do we have to fly there? Do you have to stay in hotels? What's the cost of going to that camp? One day, a couple hours, and it's local, great. Nothing, not a big loss. If you want to go far away to school, you might have to go to camps to get in front of coaches out of state. You want to go to California and you're from Iowa, you're going to have to maybe go to camps to get in front of some coaches. But playing in front of camps can be really difficult because a lot of times camps are just money makers for coaches. Maybe they're not really recruiting out of them, or they already have their recruiting classes. I know coaches that have tons of camps and they don't even really look at players out of them. You can be a shot in the dark, and I've seen it. I've seen a kid go to a camp and get recruited out of it, but I'm going to tell you, it's less than 10% that's happening. Most of the time, it's they know somebody that knows the kid. That's how they get recruited. They saw him at a showcase event. They have a connection to him somewhere or another. Those things really matter. So which camps do you target? Ones where you've had real conversations with coaches. They need to see you play. They can't see you play any other way. Then maybe a camp makes sense. And it fits your budget. Have a budget for camps. And this is one of the other things I work with players on. So if you're interested in more information about that, I can certainly send that over. But how that I have a worksheet about camps and things like that I can give you. That being said, is a lot of people ask me that I work with, hey Dan, should I go to this camp? if we talk to them, we ask them some probing questions. We get to the bottom of it. We decide yes or no if it's worth our while to go to. And sometimes they even call the coach. Hey, coach, are you still looking at this kid? Um, if so, they might consider coming to your camp if they need to come. And they might say, we don't even need a center back anymore, Dan. They'll tell me the truth, and we can sort it out that way. So there's a lot of information here. I could go on and on, I could talk for hours about it. I use my experience and connections to help prospects and their families, get connected with college coaches, gain more exposure, find the right fit. I'm truthful. I'm honest about levels of play and how you fit in. I help people save money on college costs. Save a ton. My 2022 class, saved about 12,000 per client over 4 years. Because I know the right questions to ask colleges and college coaches to get more scholarship money. Facilitate the process from start to finish. Help you save money on camps. Help you save money on reduce the stress, help save some parent teenager relationships by doing that, answering questions, being an ear to bend, talking about things, and really, probably the biggest thing is me being able to connect people with college coaches directly. Here's a player that might be a good fit. Like I said, if you want to learn more about it or you want me to evaluate recruiting, reach out to me. In the meantime, if there's any questions, I'll take those now. You can type them in the Q&A or the chat. My face was a little low there. If there are no questions, that's fine. Or if you have a question you feel like you want to ask me more personally, feel free to send me an email or text, and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, I'll hang out for another minute or two. And if there are no other questions, then thanks for joining me tonight. Hopefully that was helpful. Good luck with the start of your high school seasons. Um, and we'll talk soon. All right, I just had one personal question, so I answered that. Um, just I typed it in there, but otherwise, if there's anything else, feel free to contact me directly. Maybe we'll talk. Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.